The 2015 Historic Touring Cars at Bathurst are proudly brought to you by Castorl. Taking a look at Race 1 highlights now for the Historic Touring Cars, brought to you by Castorl here at Mount Panorama. And you can see it was absolutely atrocious conditions that greeted drivers on Saturday morning. Neville trying to lead the field down to turn 1, but Brad Tilley was able to get around the outside in that beautiful Mustang. The blue racing stripes over the top of it, just looking a treat. And you can see by the time they headed into turn 2, Hansen had dropped in behind in another Mustang, Neville and Macri in next, and then you had Anderson trying to go around the outside of Harrison on the run up the hill. Taking it on board here with Vince Macri in the Camaro, and you can just see that visibility was extremely low. The guys were having to drive really well and just make sure to keep the car on the island as they made their way up the mountain. Have a listen to this great field going past. Just look at the diversity of cars we've got on track here, thanks to the Castorl Historic Touring Cars. Just fantastic to see Mustangs, Tiranas, Camaros, Datsuns, and E.H. Holden that we can see here. This is Martin Macri. He's a bit further down the field at the moment, just starting to settle into the rhythm in this car. Coming down the mountain, you can see that all the guys were struggling, a twitch there from the Mustang in front as they come down towards the dipper, and it was just really great driving to see everybody managing to keep the cars off the wall. Of course, these guys don't have the big brakes of today's V8 supercars or the traction control or any of those driver assists that you'd really want in this sort of weather, and they were still driving hard at the front. Neville here all over the back of Hansen. There you go, you saw the Mustang break free. Neville down under brakes here, gets a little bit of a twitch on into turn 2. Look at that slide as he's pushing so hard behind the Mustang. You could not put a cigarette paper between the two of those cars as they run up the hill. Neville did not want to sit behind, and he was pressuring Hansen to the very end here as he tried to make his way back up into second position. Looking further back, and you can see we've got Troy Williams in the Mustang, Frost in the XU1 Tirana, Barrett in the Lotus Cortina, Simpson in another Tirana, Young in yet another Tirana, and a couple of other cars thrown in there as well for good measure. Just great to see all these guys. Here comes Young down the mountain there, the black Tirana with the big yellow stripe down the middle of it. They were having a great battle in the mid-pack as well. Speaking of brilliant battles, this one going on between Barguana in the Tirana and Hibbert in the RT Charger was absolutely fantastic. They caught Cannon up across the top of the mountain as well in the Falcon, and it was a real throwback to the 1970s in that battle. Looking further through the field, and we've got the Potts Monaro here coming under pressure from Drummett in the Tirana. He was making up ground down the bottom of the mountain, as well as him making up ground. There was Brown in behind in the Datsun 1600. There you can see him. So you had a Queenslander, a Victorian. I think it's two Victorians actually in this one. And they were having a great battle. The Monaro pulling away with the horsepower up Mountain Straight and down Conrod Straight. But the little Datsun and Tirana wheel spinning there out of turn 1. They were making up all the ground across the top of the mountain and really giving Potts a whole lot of pressure. He was doing well to keep him behind, doing well just to stay on top of that Monaro as well. At the top of the mountain, Barguana had a few electrical issues. He'd managed to get the car sorted and back to the finish line, so he'd live to fight another day, actually coming home just outside the top 10. Back towards the front, and you can see that the battle between Harrison, Neville and Macri was not letting go. These guys had settled into 2-minute 53 lap times and were finding a bit of traffic as they made their way across the top. You can see with Macri there on board, you cannot see very much out the front of these cars in this weather conditions. Coming down Conrod Straight for one of the final times. Just watch this move from Dean Neville. He goes to the inside, a little bit of late braking, gets down the inside of Macri, then goes to the outside of the Tirana in front of him, manages to push past. That was Christopher Frost in the Tirana, and he managed to hold his gap on Macri. At the front though, Brad Tilley would lead them home. Hansen putting all sorts of pressure on. It was a Mustang battle. Hansen unable to get there for the victory in the end, and Brad Tilley would lead the field home over Daryl Hansen. Dean Neville would hold on for third place. Here's Vince Macri in fourth. Behind him, John Harrison rounding out the top 5. So a great first race there from the Castorl Historic Touring Cars here at Mount Panorama.